Hey, welcome to the Summit Host Hangout podcast where you'll learn how to plan, strategize, and launch your profitable online summit. No influencer status necessary. I'm your host, Krista from Summit in a Box, and we were originally going to do a series on outsourcing, but the guest I told you I was working with to get in the last episode kind of fell through. So instead, we're going to touch on another topic that's really important, whether or not you're outsourcing or not, and that is organization. If you aren't organized with your summit, it's going to turn into a massive headache for you. I can promise you that. So today in episode 86, I'm going to share my top tips for running an organized virtual summit, and this is going to include everything from organizing tasks, files, team members, speakers, and just kind of your brain in general. Before we dive in, I want to invite you to join the Summit Host Hangout Facebook group. This is a free group of summit hosts, whether they're up-and-coming hosts or experienced hosts who have come together to get support and to support each other in the summit planning journey. This is an incredibly active community. I have people telling me all the time that they can't believe that it's a free group. This is a great place to ask questions, get support others, and just kind of feel understood, since people who aren't hosting a summit, they don't really get it, And this group has so many people that can give you input based on experience, and you can see, different options and what's going to work best for you. So join this group by going to summitinabox.co/community. So let's dive into my top tips for running an organized summit. The first one, I'm kind of already cheating in that it's more of a productivity hack than an organization tip, but it goes along with it. It definitely helps with organization. And that is that I recommend you use the Toby extension for Google Chrome. If you already use this, you're like, oh yeah, I get it. You need this. If you haven't, you're welcome. This extension is such a time saver. What it lets you do is basically you can save a group of tabs for Google Chrome that you want to open all at once. And rather than opening things one at a time, typing in URLs or going into your bookmarks and opening the things you need, you click one button and all the things you need open together, and you can save all different kinds of groups of them. So for my summits, I have a summit group of tabs. Click a button when I'm going to work on the summit and all of those things open. And here are the tabs I recommend including in your summit group. First is your project management software. So for me, that's Asana, but for you, maybe it's Trello or ClickUp. Wherever you track your projects, that's the first thing you want to open. Your summit website is another great thing to include in here. Have it open the login page for your website. Your speaker tracking spreadsheet, your Google Drive folder, your inbox for whatever, if you have a separate inbox for your summit, make sure that opens. And if you're a Summit in a Box student, the Summit in a Box program would be another great addition. So now every time you go to work on your summit, you click one button and all those things open for you, rather than you having to spend time opening each one individually, or, maybe you start a task, realize you need something and have to stop, go open a couple tabs. You have it all right when you start the task. So that is my first recommendation. It just sets you up to be organized and efficient from the moment you start working on your summit each day. I'll link to that extension in the show notes, by the way. My second organizational tip is having a detailed project plan for your summit, somewhere like Asana, Trello, or ClickUp. If you have our Summit Host process map, which is a bonus for the Summit in a Box program, you already have access to our exact project plan, but I can't imagine hosting a summit by just winging it, by not having tasks outlined and just being like, oh, okay, I'm just going to sit down and see what I feel like I need to do today. There would be so many things that got missed in the process that you need to go back and do last minute. You need to have every single task for everything from planning and setting goals to wrapping things up when the event is done. You also need each task to have a due date assigned to it. You're not just sitting down each day and be like, okay, what should I do today? No, each task has a due date assigned in advance, so you are totally confident that everything is getting done when you need it done. You're also going to have each task assigned to a team member, even if that's just you, with a detailed description for them. So our Summit Host process map that I mentioned has over 300 tasks to complete, and also has a bonus, our Summit Planning Accelerator, that will tell you which team member we recommend assigning the task to and what date we recommend making it due based on when your summit is actually happening. We also take care of the descriptions for you by linking to relevant resources in Summit in a Box to make the process easy. So for example, when you get to the registration page task, we're linking you directly to our registration page copy template, our website template, and the training on making your registration page. If you don't have that, I want you to set aside a few hours to create it for yourself. You will thank yourself later for doing it. It might not be the most fun up front to sit and map out the entire project plan for your summit if you do not have our resources, but it is so worth it. This is something you need to have a successful and well-organized event. All right, my next organizational tip for your virtual summit is having a single folder in Google Drive that houses everything for your summit. And this is going to be things like speaker resources, branding information like your logo and colors, your website copy, your email copy, Facebook group strategy information, your videos that you record, and just like general notes related to ideas that you have. You could technically use Dropbox for this, but I've always just preferred the way that Google Drive looks when you open a folder and the way you can see everything visually. It's also really easy to share with your speakers and team as well. Summit in a Box students, again, you guys have an exact copy of our Google Drive folder to upload to your account. But if you don't have this, again, take some time to make it happen. It is so helpful when compared to having your Summit resources spread all over, maybe some in Dropbox, some in Google Drive, some on your local computer. Having everything in one spot will just save you so much time searching for things. I also really recommend sorting files into a hierarchy of folders that make sense, rather than just throwing it all in one big folder. So for example, our main folder in our folder template has subfolders, one for admin, one for speakers, one for affiliates, and one for marketing. And each of those then have a whole bunch of their own subfolders. So if we're going, okay, I need to look for a registration page copy, we're going there, we're saying, okay, that's admin, go in there. Oh, website. Oh, registration page. Boom, there it is. So easy to find. We're not stuck searching for things. So make sure you have one folder with all of your summit related material nice and organized in it. All right, the next tip I have for you to run an organized virtual summit is to have one spreadsheet to keep track of every aspect of pitching, onboarding, and managing your summit speakers. This is going to keep track of everything from who you plan to pitch to your outreach and your follow-up efforts, and then what happens after you have these people on board. So it keeps track of who has said yes, and then all of the information you need from them after the fact. It also keeps track of where each person is in the process. So for example, in our speaker tracking spreadsheet, we mark off when we've requested to get information from a speaker, we check a box. And then when we get it back, we check another box. When we send a contract, we check a box to say, hey, we sent it. When we get it back, we check another box. Like each step of the process is tracked, so we can easily look and say, oh, we need to follow up with speakers A, B, and C to get their signed contracts. Everyone else already submitted theirs. So easy to look at a list of checkboxes and see who is missing. This is also where I keep track of like potential speakers to reach out to when I come across them in between summits. So I keep my speaker tracking spreadsheet open. So, maybe 3 months after the summit's over, I'm on Instagram and come across this account for someone who'd be a perfect speaker. I just open that spreadsheet and I have one tab in there where I just drop names and like either website addresses or Instagram accounts for people who I think would be great to reach out to next time. Summit in a Box students, again, you guys are all set. You have our exact speaker tracking spreadsheet, but otherwise this is worth making. I recommend using Airtable for this just because of the extra features it has, but you could also use something like Google Sheets if you're not a big fan of Airtable, but you can totally use the free version of Airtable. We will link to that in the show notes. All right, my next recommendation is to keep yourself organized by batching the time you work on your summit. So when mapping out your project plan, you could choose to work on your summit for, let's say, like 30 minutes to 2 hours per day, every day of the week. I tend to map out my initial timeline like this just to make sure I'm not overloading myself in 1 week, but then I move the tasks all to the same day of the week. So rather than having all of my summit related tasks spread across all 5 days, I'll move them so they're all on, say, Wednesday, for example, and I can just knock them all out all in one day. For me, I kind of find that this keeps my thoughts more organized than I would if I was just doing little things here and there. And instead of splitting my attention between multiple projects in a day, I can just dedicate one single day entirely to the summit. And this also has let me pay more attention to tasks that might have slipped through the cracks or take action on fun ideas that I would have kind of had to skip if my day had a ton of non-summit related tasks assigned to it as well. It also helps in that, maybe you finish your tasks early for the day and you're like, okay, what else can I do? For me, this is the time where I'm like, okay, let me go check in on my speakers, see what else I can do for them, see if there's any other fun things I can add to this event. It just gives me the space to get ahead on things and host a better event. So if you can do that, I do recommend batching the time you spend on your summit. The next organizational tip I have for you is to keep your team and speakers updated. You can't expect everyone else to know what's going on in your process if you're not telling them, right? So I actually find that doing this makes me get even more organized as well, because if there's a detail that I want to share with them that I haven't figured out yet, I have to make a decision in order to give everyone else that update. Like, for example, as of recording this, just last week, I sent my speakers a finalized list of who else was speaking and what was next for them in the process. And as I was writing the email to them, I realized it would be really helpful for them to know who was speaking in which order and about which topics in case they wanted to refer to other presentations inside of their own. So I made myself stop, go to my speaker tracking spreadsheet and put all the presentations in order so I could send it to them that way. And I was able to say, hey, here's what day you're speaking on, and here's who's speaking around you and what other presentations are going on. So that's a small example, but it really helped both me and them have a better experience and an overall more organized and connected event. My last summit organization tip is to give yourself more time than you think you need. If you're short on time, you will use that as an excuse to become unorganized. So maybe instead of sorting a file into the right folder, you just throw it on your desktop. Or instead of stopping to check off that a speaker signed your contract, you tell yourself, oh, I'll remember to do that later, and you never do. Either you don't get that contract from them, or you follow up with them when you've already gotten it. Or you have to waste time going through and cross-checking your spreadsheet with like Dubsado. Or maybe you have a fun idea that you want to add to your summit, but you don't take the time to write it down, and then you can't remember what it is later. Like, allowing yourself extra time will just let you get these details right and will make the process more smooth for everyone and more enjoyable for you. Overall, not taking the time to get organized will just lead to a messy event. We've all seen these. We know what these look like, especially if you've been a speaker at one, you know what this looks like all too well. It's going to feel stressful for you and look messy to everyone else, especially your speakers. So for your action steps, I want you to start by mapping out your project plan if you are not a Summit in a Box member and you do not have our process map. And I want you to get the Toby Chrome extension as well. And then make sure you have extra time built into your process to pay attention to organization moving forward and just putting together a well-rounded event. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. For show notes and resources I mentioned, head to summitHostHangout.com/086. In the next episode, we will be chatting about something I've seen a lot of people sharing opinions on lately, and that is whether or not you need to pay your summit speakers. So be sure to tune into that. Obviously, I had to jump in and share my opinions too. Before you go, take a minute to check out my free masterclass covering the 3-part framework to triple your monthly revenue with the virtual summit while building your email list for free. In this class, we cover the secret to creating a plan you can actually follow to make your summit happen, even if your business is already too busy. We talk about how to host a profitable event and land expert speakers without a huge audience of your own. And we cover how to use my 3-part profitable summit system to triple your monthly revenue and the size of your email list. You can join that free class at summitHostHangout.com/class. Now go out and take action to plan, strategize, and launch your profitable online summit.